Right, we're here. So I just realised that the restream is a bit laggy. So if you're just joining us on LinkedIn, welcome, and saying that you just Hats, but he's still with us as one of the volunteer secretariat. So we will be using his talents to the full, as we do with all the volunteer secretariat. Right. This is what we normally cover in our monthly members meeting, a quick roundup of what's going on in the back office, followed by a roundup from each working group lead of what's going on in their working groups so that we don't get too siloed. And we can find out what's going on throughout the organisation. And then as we've grown, we've got the lesser called projects as well. They overlap quite a lot with our working group projects. So there may be a little bit of dovetailing and repetition, but we'll try to avoid that where possible. We haven't got a green stream at the end. Normally the last 15 minutes, we just have an informal chat and a presentation from a guest or from one of the members. This week, we're not going to be doing that. Mike is going to be doing that. Unfortunately, he's tied up with a personal matter. So I think Ben and I might talk a little bit more depth about the grant application that we've been putting in place, because I don't want to get too sucked into that as we go. Right. So back office sort of side of things, we've got several new interested organisations who've moved the conversations on from where they were at IBC up to talking to C-suite stage. It includes a couple of operators. Still no new members to announce this quarter. It's a bit slow, but we've got heads down doing lots of other things as well. So we're allowing organic growth to take its time. There's quite a lot of interest from quite a number of parties in getting involved in things like the Lesser Called. So we've had Telecom Italia confirm that they will take part in the Lesser Called project, and we are expecting 2 or 3 more over the autumn. Larger operator tends to be engagement with larger operators at the moment, just for general interest. Smaller operators, I think, are sort of dealing with a tough autumn, I think, across the industry, but the larger operators tend to be getting thicker into the conversations at this stage. As I think many of you will know, one of the key decisions over October was to sort of flip the coin. We were thinking next year, but we've decided to be conservative with the budget and to build the momentum in the research work and output that we can generate as an organisation. We're getting asked to speak at a lot of conferences anyway. Putting an event on in the States is unlikely to draw specific attention from regulators and so on at this stage. However, with a year's more research work under our belt and collaborations with the industry, we think that story might be better placed in 2025. So we're refocusing what would normally be our event budget onto grant writing at the moment, and Ben and I particularly, and Barbara and others, have been really up to our eyes in preparing a grant. As you know, there was a vote earlier in the month just to confirm that everyone was happy for us to make that slight change of direction, and that went ahead. So key things that I kind of wanted to highlight, we've had Working Group 1 put together a meeting to finalise their survey results. There was a slight diary. We're still having some diarying issues and so on. I'll talk about that in a second. So I think there's going to be a reconvening of Working Group 1, and we'll cover that specifically when we get to Working Group 1. Working Group 4 was disrupted by Akamai acquiring Lumen CDN assets right in the middle of us CDNs to normalise. So that's something of a setback in terms of what we were trying to do, but actually in practical terms, as we'll hear when we get to Working Group 4 a bit more, there's probably more potential to go ahead quicker, focusing on Akamai's really well-established methodologies. I was hoping Mike was going to be able to talk about that a little bit more today, but we'll push that back to next month. Then I will not take the thunder out of any more of the working groups, but the key thing, the key other elements in the back office are that the main invoices are and people are paying. That's cool. Thank you very much for that. If you've got outstanding invoices, please step on your accounts departments. But this is always a kind of key transition point as the main renewals come around, and we can then strategize for the rest of the year. Final thing is that I wanted to touch on is calendaring. Actually, on finances. Let's look at the chart. That's what we look like at the moment. You can see the gap between real, which is the black line, and blue, which is where we should be, is the fiscal drag of you of your organisations taking their time to pay accounts. So please help out where you can. But we're in quite good shape now. We've passed the dip, which was about sort of 4 or 5 weeks ago. So everything's building up for this year as planned. Calendaring. So yes, calendaring isn't still there, I think it's fair to say. We took all of the general use of members at Greening and Streaming emails to invite members to calendaring. We've taken that mess, particularly with repeating invites and updates and so on. It was really getting confusing. As an interim measure, what we've done is created a subscribable menu or subscribable, sorry, feed, which you can click on and add like a new calendar to your calendaring app. You'll need to do that on several times on different devices because it doesn't show up. It doesn't necessarily show up if you add it on your laptop. It won't necessarily show up on your phone. Subscribe calendars also don't push reminders and alerts, so it can be, and it might not block your diary if you have other things calendaring. So yesterday, Ben and I have set about creating a sub mailing list for each working group, and we are going to go through the process of looking at who signed up to which working group on the hub and marrying those lists to small sub-working groups so that in future working group leads will be able to add the working group to an invite, and 6, 8, 10, 12 people will get that invite put into their diary as we used to. And I will encourage people not to use repeating invites because they get messy. So yeah, with that, if you get some spurious emails, but with that, we should see things tidy up. You should also be now getting a Monday agenda email with a 2-week look ahead. So hopefully that's better. Okay, app as always is fast and friendly and has the diary on it. So if you haven't got it, go to the hub, find the links, and install the app for your phone. And Barbara, as always, I don't know if you want to chip in.
Sure.
To my door. Yeah, do you want to chip in a second and just talk about the
Yes, we're after a somewhat slow start, we are gaining a little bit more momentum on this. You can click one more time, please. And we want to do videos of all of members and just talk a little bit about what you believe in the mission and why you're part of Greening of Streaming, so that we can use them to help promote your organization as well as Greening of Streaming, as well as just to make sure that you're getting out of it as much as you desire. So I just finished a video with Mainstreaming. I have one scheduled with both Broadpeak and Excello for the coming weeks. So I will be reaching out again to all of you, but don't be afraid. If you want to reach out to me right away, feel free to do that and we'll schedule an interview. And these will get posted on various social media as well as part of the Greening of Streaming blog. So please reach out. You're muted, Tom.
Great, thanks for that, Barbara. Sorry. I will be pushing the next one in the series out a little bit later this week, if all goes to plan. So, cool. Thanks for that, Barbara. Right, next slide. So, into the working group updates. Felipe, I think, sent his apologies. He had a customer meeting. So basically, they finalised the taxonomy for the sleep standby and power off. They did have a meeting, but due to a calendaring entry, only Felipe turned up. Even I didn't turn up to that one, so huge apologies for that. Watch the diary. We should have a sort of final wrap up for that project in the next few weeks. And then December the 11th is where we want to start looking at new topics in Working Group 1. So good time to get involved in Working Group 1. Working Group 2. So I think I've touched on some of this. We did the Sustainability Expert Series. We will be doing these quarterly. we've added a new media policy element to it. That was shortly after last month's event. We could do with bolstering the attendance on that. So the next quarterly one will be coming up in January, and it would be great if you folks could pick up on the links and give it a bit of a push, come along yourselves, invite colleagues and so on. They're quite interesting sessions. They're broad, and they're starting to really help us include regulatory framework stuff as much as sustainability specific topics. Continue to support the Flint as sponsors, and Ben is writing some pieces for us monthly on that. And Broadcast Now magazine has asked me for a monthly. Quite a lot going on. I expect a working group 2 meeting before the end of the month when I catch my breath and know what's happening. I've got a couple of conferences, so it might be a bit complicated. It might be just into December. Barbara, working group 3.
Yes. Again, we've still don't have much going on in this working group at the moment, but I do want to kick up this discussion around regulations. I think that's something that we all ought to be aware of and informed upon. And so I'm suggesting that early in the new year, we begin a session around the regulations so that everyone can understand what's coming. And it is changing very actively around the world, actually. So look for that. I did say that we would do it in November, but that's not going to happen today, but hopefully in January or February timeframe.
I keep forgetting to take the mute off. Thanks, Barbara. Cool. Working group 4, Julian.
Yeah. Hello. So for work group 4 last month, so we had a meeting with Akamai and Lumen. And the good news is that Akamai is now ready to share their global energy data. And what is good also is that they agree to share the energy data from their clients. So for us, from the GOS members that are using the Akamai infrastructure. So for that, they need an official agreement from the GOS members. So we started by asking to Dazen. I sent an email to Robin to ask him if Dazen was agreed to share their Akamai energy data. No response, no answer for now. And
also, Julian, I can answer now because I'm not actually at DAZN anymore. So look, I'll have to give you an alternative person to talk to on that one. Probably.
Okay, thanks.
Cora and Vincenzo and people like that. So yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Okay, and for EBU, we asked Emini to send emails to some broadcasters to ask the same agreement. So no news for now. So we are waiting. Also, I think we will have a meeting with Aaron, I think, for the breadcrumb project, less project 3. He planned to have a meeting with Work Group 4 for this project, and I think also in the next Work Group 4 monthly meeting, which is on the 11th, I think, we will have a discussion with Simon, I think, from Less Project 1, and to see if Work Group 4 can help for this project. And at last, I made some measurements during the Rugby World Cup finale, and so I published the data on the hub World Group 4. So the news is that they are now in CSV format, which is the format that was asked by human autobots. So I don't see nobody from human autobots, but I will I will reach them to see if they can ingest this data in their platform. So that's all for workgroup 4.
Sorry, forgot mute again, folks. Right, so working group 4, thank you for that, Julien. Let's go working group 5. Anthony's not here. Okay, I don't think there's been much activity on working group 5. I will give him a prod and catch up and find out what's going on there. Haven't got an update. So working group 6, Sam.
Yep. Hello. So yeah, we've had a couple of good discussions on on LESS Project 2, basically focusing on the first of those components in that project, which is the trying to work out what the measurement approach is for getting the energy measurements from encoding, transcoding systems of various kinds. So yeah, there is now a draft document for the measurement guidelines document that's linked from there, and obviously in the working group 6 stuff on the hub if anyone wants to review and get involved. I'm doing quite a lot of outreach to the other encoder vendors in the group and so on. Because we definitely need to sort of pool expertise on different ways to measure transcoding energy on different types of systems. So I'm hoping that for the next meeting we have a few more people online to do that, and yes, hoping to just pick up reviews and input on that document over the next week or so. I think that's it.
Perfect, thanks, Sam. And yeah, just to encourage, I think working group 6 is waking up now. So if people can turn their attention and make a bit of space to support Sam and get stuck in there, that would be great. I won't go through that because we know it's working group 7. Christoph can't unfortunately do Wednesday afternoon, so it's a bit of a tradition. I do his update for him anyway. Basically, we had quite a good meeting actually after a bit of idle time. We are chasing JT at the SVTA to get some feedback on the paper that we produced about possible synergy with open caching. Areas where working group 7 can get involved with, particularly other lesser called projects. Next meeting's lined up for November the 17th. Please come to that one. Ben.
Thanks, Tom.
Lots in working group 8. Yeah.
Yes, I hope we've captured it all in the notes, but just first, I've got lots of shout outs for help, and I need, although lots of people usually come, I don't know. Just to bounce off on that calendar issue, I think something happened because our last meeting yesterday, there was like 3 of us when there's normally 8 of us at the meetings. But hopefully that'll be sorted before our next meeting, which is on November the 21st. I'm supposed to be putting together a corpus of documents. So another shout out if anybody has any reference documents about which contain energy measurements. Even if you think I might have them, just send them to me. For now, we just have 4. So I need to build up, and one of our objectives is to then create a list of all the energy measurements that are around and create our own scattergraph or something. I'm actually presenting, this isn't on the slide, at EBU Horizons on Tuesday next week, and I will have to put together a list of all the data I have for that presentation. So if you can send me anything for that, that would be cool. I'm just leaving it there because it's still a big issue. We're working on devices and we have no device makers in our group. So, you know, a kind of big Sony kind of company would be fantastic, but even a specialized small one would be good. Somebody who makes a living out of building devices would be great to have one. And if we can't get them to join Greening of Streaming, at least invite them to some of our discussions. So I won't talk much about the grant submission because that's what we're going to talk about at the end of the relationship. We have, you would all have received your grant endorsement letter. So that is, we have hired a professional grant writer, and she suggested we get some endorsements. So we wrote an endorsement letter, and we're just looking for people to give us their logo and name and title that we can add as an endorsement, saying basically, yeah, we think Greening of Streaming is doing a good job, and they should do this project. I won't go into more details. As I said, we'll cover that at the end of this meeting. I just wanted to give you some of the news of what's going on in the works we've been doing. So we spoke about ambient light, some findings that were made in September for IBC, that, you know, the huge impact that has. You can get a factor 3 in the power consumption of a TV depending on the ambient light. Now we're currently looking into top pixels versus bottom pixels, and the first results we have in HDR show that 4% more use on the bottom ones on some TVs with HDR, and so it's exciting stuff. Stay tuned, but even better, join in. We need help testing this. I'm particularly, I don't know if Fraunhofer's here, but people who have labs and things would be the most helpful. And just to jump to the point below that, anybody who's available in London on January the 18th, it's not yet fully set in stone, but we have provisionally booked the DTG Zoo. So that is a technical facility where there will be access to dozens of TVs and other streaming devices. And our idea is, if we do confirm this, is to plan a whole day of a hackathon, a test day. And so typically what I just mentioned about top pixels versus bottom pixels, we'll prepare some videos and put them on all the TVs and measure their power consumption and see whether we see any patterns. So it would be exciting if anybody would be able to join us there. And if you can't join us, but you're interested, just get in touch with me or anybody in Working Group 8. We'll try and sort that out at our next meeting on the 21st. I just wanted to say one point I missed above was that Simon helped me do the testing above, and so we actually have some expertise now in Working Group 8 to use FFmpeg to create certain kinds of test video. So Simon's the expert. If you just you can reach out to him or join our next meeting if that's something you're interested in. As I said, the next meeting is on the 21st. And I'll make sure that everybody gets it. I did send an email, the first test email of the new email system that Dom mentioned. I sent an email to everybody to test it in Working Group 8. So if you're in Working Group 8 and you didn't receive an email from me yesterday, let me know. I must have done something wrong. That's all for me, guys.
Awesome. Can I actually just say a quick and big thank you to Ben in particular and Barbara. In the last month or so, Ben and Barbara have both been at my side constantly, helping with grant applications, helping with the overall growth and development of Greening of Streaming. And it feels like a much more grown-up organisation after the last month, which is great. So just a huge personal thanks to both of them for everything that they're doing for the organisation. Group 9, I did catch up with Mark. We are going to start sort of shaping that up, but I think it's going to precipitate more as we get data flows working, and particularly having Bristol getting involved as a grant application in that project. I think that's going to give us opportunities to sort of develop the long dormant, but I think ultimately necessary work in Group 9. So it's not completely stopped, but it's but there's nothing to report about at the moment. That diagram keeps coming up. Right. 4 lesser called projects. Quick updates. I think my bit certainly is going to be a bit repetitive from last, but Simon, I think we'll have something revolutionary because he's been busy. Simon, over to you.
I wouldn't say it's revolutionary, folks, but yeah, we're proposing to run this as a work item within Working Group 4. So I'd like to call upon the expertise and knowledge that already exists, and rather than setting up a separate team, but as a work item, we may run our own calls in addition to the Working Group 4 calls. I produced a project outline of what I think I would like to do, and if we get the opportunity to review that on the next Working Group 4 call, that'd be great. As always, I produce something and step back for a while, a few days, to then go back at it and review it. So with a bit of luck, I can send it out tomorrow after lunch. And having now got the email circulation for Working Group 4, I've got a great method for doing that. Within that, there will be a call for input. I need to understand the different network topologies that exist across operators. Clearly, we have some input from the past, from the likes of BT, but it'd be good to understand how typical their network topology, particularly the way the network founds out, how that works. Looking at CDN deployments to understand where CDNs get deployed into ISP networks. Is everything at the core, or is there a growing amount of deployment deeper into the network? And then I think what's hard to Working Group 4 is to try and understand what information people can provide us about actual energy use of network elements. What's the core switch consume? Does that consumption vary by time of day? So that's the inputs that we'll get, hopefully, and then we'll try and pull that all together. Initially, I think we'll just do some Excel modeling of various use case scenarios. But if any of those look promising, we'll see whether we can actually drive any tests from that. So I think finally we might be underway, Dom.
Great, awesome, Simon. Thank you. That's really brilliant news. I'm enjoying the progress on that one, on that project. That's cool. Sam, I don't know if you want anything particular to add here. We've been kind of agreeing that Project 2 is at the moment, very tightly conflated with Working Group 6. Might emerge to some experiments with external non-members, but at the moment it's going to be. Sam, sorry, I might be talking over you.
Yeah, I agree, Dom. I'm just tracking it on the Working Group 6 slides at the moment until that changes.
Cool, brilliant. Arian, Working Group Project 3.
Yeah. As I'm driving in the car, Dom, I think can you do it, because I have to
yeah, definitely. Let's not kill our key members. So there's some sort of digestion, I think, going on after IBC. I think there is a role for Project 3 to be keeping an eye on all the different measurement methodologies that we're using across developing across screening and streaming, and sort of have somebody, nominally Arian, as the Project 3 working group, Project 3 lead, focusing on this breadcrumbs model. I think expect, if you're involved in measurement in any of the working groups, expect Arian to sit down and have a chat with you and keep logging what's going on, so we have that thinking at least in one central place. And then the thought experiment of the breadcrumb idea, which is a kind of orthogonal way of doing measurement, can be explored, but in context with what we're doing elsewhere as well. So hopefully that sums things up, Arian. If not, send us an email on our members app, and don't type that email while you're driving. So okay, I'll just leave that slide up for a second. I think that's quite useful, just to remind everyone what the breadcrumb idea was. Okay, cool. Project 4. Actually had an interesting chat with a group called Asperitas, who were quite interested in the coming to tell us a little bit more about immersion cooling. They are very serious about it. They seem to have some quite advanced deployments. I think they'd quite like to show that off to our members and participants who are interested in small micro data center and that sort of thing. I have invited them to come and do a green stream for us at the end of I think it's the January. I think it's the end of the February monthly members meeting. So I'll make sure to push that around as a reminder for those that are interested in that sort of cool immersion cooling fabric. And a couple of interesting chats at very high level with various people about the windmills. They were people involved in the carrier space, and they might know R&D teams and people who are interested in projects at that sort of scale. But as always, Project 4 stuff is all moonshot and blue sky. So if we're lucky, we might find some people who want to play, but we are just talking to people at this stage. So can I just open the floor for a little bit? We've done good time today, made good time, sorry, excuse my grammar. We've made good time today. I think Ben and I are going to give a little bit more space to go a little bit deeper into the grant work that we've been doing to fill up the Greenstream space today. But before I do that, is there any other businesses or anything else anyone would like to raise, issue, circulate, make sure that other members are aware of? Don't be shy. Or Barbara and Ben, tell me what I've forgotten.
Well, there's a lot to talk about, but
Yeah.
on the grant, but depends on what
Okay.
people are interested in.
I don't know if anyone else has got any other business, but if they haven't, let's have a little bit more of a chat about the grant side of things. I'm going to stop the screen sharing, and I don't know if Ben will want to. You might want to share a few of the documents that we've been developing just to give people a sense of what we've been thinking about. Have we got the Ben? Have you got the project overview sheet to hand? Maybe it's about a one-pager which we could actually open up and share, and I think that's probably a good high-level vision document. I don't know if Ben's there.
Yes, I am. I was trying to unmute myself on the LinkedIn feed, and that didn't work. I couldn't find the mic button. I was clicking all over the place because I was listening to the audio from this, but I had the video from the other.
I get confused if you do that.
Well, it's just a big wodge of text, really. I mean, sure, I can just
I think it just helps set the scene. I mean, basically, the document itself is something like 80 pages long at the moment, and we're gradually whittling that down. It'll probably end up as a dozen or so. So there's a lot of thought and copy and paste and so on. It's very rough at the moment, but there are some bits which Ben, Barbara and I have sat down and gone, let's just have a full stab at this just to give a clear picture. If you've got the project overview, I think that's probably useful.
Getting it ready to show, because if I show it too soon, it slows everything down. Ready, share screen, grant application. So, sorry, as I said, it's not ideal. This needs to be put into a PowerPoint, really. But the idea was just basically to sum up, say, well, there is a problem in the world that basically, 1% of global emissions about today may be already due to streaming, directly or indirectly. And we teamed up with Bristol University, who academically are in the forefront of this kind of research. The idea, we made it very clear, it's all about real world data. It is our understanding that all the data you see out there about how much is consumed by streaming is based on lab results, which are then extrapolated to what if this lab result happened in the real world. Nobody, as far as we're aware, has actually done it in the real world. So if we're right, we're quite excited, and we get this funding. The project would run in early 2024, and we'd have the first results probably by NAB. They won't be polished yet, but that would be quite exciting to start talking about some real results. That's what we've developed here as an idea, explaining to people. And the idea we've told this is written for the evaluators of our grant application. If we can then isolate the whole point of this is, it's an aspirational goal, but is to reduce the power of consumed by streaming in general. So there is a very high outline of how we're planning to design the project. So we're in there. Obviously, key to any of these things is that is make or break. If we screw that up, however hard we work, we won't get any good results. And if we do that well, we'll always get some good results. So it's very, very critical to do that. As a reminder, I said this last time, we are going to be running a small beta test of this whole thing just with members of Greening is Streaming. So if you're interested, just send me a little email and we'll make sure you get some devices to put behind TVs and routers and other devices in your home or office. We're looking for 5 or 6 people total. And so I'm running that out of Working Group 8. So if you're not a member of Working Group 8 and you're interested, let me know. And that will be starting probably in 2 weeks. Then obviously we're looking quite randomly, to be honest. 200 homes is the target. That is going to be refined. It may end up being 50 homes. It may end up being 500 homes. We don't quite know yet because there's so many moving parts here. And then you can see basically the current plan is to ask people to tune into test channels at night, but it just occurred to us, actually, sorry, I'm very ashamed of this, we only thought of it today, but TVs tend to turn themselves off usually after 2 hours or 4 hours. So we'll have to cope with that issue. But that's part of the project. And yeah, then the idea is not necessarily to have a really, really valid absolute value. Streaming costs exactly 6.3 kilowatts per X in that time. I mean, hopefully we will have such data, but that's a secondary benefit. What we're looking for is to hook into the Lesser Chord projects and the other working groups, so that everything that's happening in the whole of our work, we can see what effect does that have on the end-to-end consumption, because we will link this project, which is just for end devices, with everything going on in the network. That's the idea. And so so this is some blah blah just to stroke the egos of the evaluators, because this particular one we're going for is West of England. And so we're basically saying, well, if the West of England pays for this project, the West of England will have the first ever real data in the world of how much it consumes, how much streaming consumes, and will be very good for them. And so involve citizens and stuff like that. So as Dom said, you can see this document is about 80 pages long at the moment. This is the document we're writing with Sheehan, who is our professional grant application person. This is all going to be fed into the website where you have to create the application. Any questions?
That's perfect, Ben. No, thank you. Rudolph's come on, Mike. Rudolph.
Yeah. Are you also going to compare streaming with, for example, provider IPTV and cable TV?
That's an excellent question. You must join one of our meetings and ask it then, and then we'll put it on the table and think about it. You caught me off guard there. I don't think we've actually discussed it. I'm just thinking.
So
our idea was not to do that, because we wanted to do it when we control things. So that would depend on us having an IPTV operator join this project, ideally join Greening of Streaming. So I know that we've got very advanced talks with people like Orange, Telecom Italia, people who actually have IPTV services. I mean, of course, Broadpeak and a bunch of other people here have a bunch of IPTV clients. So it's possible. To be honest with you, we haven't really thought about that more. We were more thinking about doing test streams ourselves. But that is an excellent.
Ben, if I may, yes. Several IPTV providers support also YouTube. So you can do the measurements on that content if you put it on YouTube.
Okay, yeah, so we could actually do some work without having them involved in the project. That's an excellent
idea. And still measure their boxes and their whatever routers, whatever stuff they put in the home.
The issue there is that we wanted to kind of have a very close correlation between the measurement and the content that's being streamed, so that we gain some kind of understanding. But I think it's very worthwhile. Once we have this infrastructure set up, I mean, the world's our oyster. There's all sorts of ideas that people can have, and we can say, oh yeah, we can do that too. Oh yeah, we can do this too.
You can do also a live event from YouTube. Then there is correlation in time.
Yeah, we can see if there's any measurable impact in the home when you're streaming a live event versus a non-live event, whether that's measurable or not. There's going to be all sorts of stuff to do.
I think the thing to remember is, if we can get some funding to put this out there, from Greening of Streaming's own point of view, this is a virtual lab that we're creating. That the initial research project, which would involve a certain number of sites and a certain turnaround of interpretation of the data for, if you like, ESG impact by Bristol. I think those elements are going to be specific discrete inputs and outputs, but what we're hoping to have facilitated is a lab. Yes, it involves some sort of participation from the end users, but essentially, if we can open that platform out, there's no reason not to do a series of experiments on that platform. The more we can use these bits of plastic that we put out in the field, the better.
Just got some feedback. Yeah. Some people are watching on LinkedIn. Ian saying, in terms of accuracy and precision, responding to Ariane, doesn't quite agree because he said consumption will be very different on multicast and unicast. So that's not a specific angle of this project, but it's a very specific angle for Simon's project.
I think the point is we're getting a lab out there as a piggyback on the initial research, but we should expect to try to put that lab as we grow it to use in many different ways and open it up for other people to do the same.
Ian makes another point saying, as we're restricted to the UK in this test, he says we won't have any serious IPTV multicast testing in the southwest of England. We'll have to wait till we're in other parts of the world for that. But that's just my point. Thank you, Ian, for that useful comment.
I think it's also just worth mentioning Faultline. I spoke to Tommy today, and they're keen to get involved as partners. We're quite open to partnership here. So if you think your organisation wants to do more than just endorse it, but really get deeply involved, I think we can get those names into the proposal, particularly if you have footprint or association with the southwest of the UK. That's a real kind of winner outside.
3 levels of, really enter the project and roll your sleeves up and stick your head under the hood with us. We'd love that. You can join the project mainly on paper, 1 or 2 big companies, especially if you have any presence in the southwest. Just to put your name on the paper would help us as a paper. We don't need many. We only really want 1 or 2 more with a southwest focus. And the third thing is we are going to set up an advisory board of this project. That isn't really applied to people on this call, but those of you who are already members of Greening of Streaming, because you'll get access to all the information anyway. But if there's anybody on this call on YouTube or LinkedIn, if you're interested in this project, this measurement project in the Southwest, we are setting up an advisory board. People in that advisory board, all they need to do is give us their logo and have a quick chat with us, and then we will organize a few discussions before the project starts, during the project, and you'll help steer the project and be involved in this project. So please get in touch with us, especially if you're not a GOS member. Get in touch with Dom and Barbara or myself, and we'll set up this advisory board to the project.
And one of the key things to highlight is this research is not dependent on the grant. This research is going to be accelerated by the grant if we get this, but part of the process of writing this grant is to really consolidate the planning for this research and the coalition that we'd like to form across the industry with everybody to do what we think is pioneering and essential and get some real world data. It's definitely something to get involved with if you can. Cool. Does anyone else have any other questions or things they'd like to bring up? Because there's no need to keep everyone to the end of the hour if we're done. Cool. I'm going to take the silence as a good thing. Right. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining. And Barbara, you came on video. Oh, you came on to wave. Okay. Thanks for joining us. Next meeting is. Let me just get this right. What's going on the slide there? Okay, the slide's not working. It's on December the 13th. I think it is. There we go. December 13th. Next one, so get that in your diary. Apologies for probably slightly more noise on the calendar while we get it settled down, but you should start getting a steady flow of proper appointments in the next few days. All right, have fun. Speak to you soon. See you in the working groups.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, bye all.
Bye.